We are back with a brand new episode of JTC Jibreel Talks Comics. I am Jibreel, and this is my show where I talk about comics, and I'm stoked about this show. We're going to probably have a longer show because we actually have two stories. Look at us. We haven't had stories for a couple of weeks now because I try not to talk about things just for the sake of having a story. Like, if I don't have a lot of takes about it or a lot of feelings about it, I'm like, you know what, I'll just skip it. And, you know, you can go to my TikTok and ask me about it or whatever. But I didn't want to, dedicate too much story space unless it's big and relevant to me. But this week we have two. It's been a huge week for Marvel specifically. They dropped a whole bunch of information, so I'm excited to talk about it. Before we jump into stories, we got to talk about the drink. I don't know if you guys like this segment. I like doing it because I'm very interested in Bev talk, if you will. We're going with an iced coffee. We've been doing the iced coffee thing for a number of weeks now. But I do want to give a shout out to the specific brand of coffee that I'm using here. I wouldn't say I'm a coffee aficionado, but I certainly am a coffee enthusiast. And before I threw out the bag, I actually grinded up the last of this specific brand. And I was like, you know what? Let me hold on to the bag real quick so I can give them a quick shout out. So Bellingham Coffee Roasters, and specifically the whiskey blend. This is a barrel-aged coffee. So if you're into woody, whiskey, bourbon-y flavors, this is it. And it's outstanding. It is on the pricier side. I think a bag like this usually goes from anywhere. I think it's like 18. I've seen it as high as 22, but it's lower. It's usually lower than that, but you could find it in Whole Foods. If you're in the northern Washington area, they roast around there, so you can go there and buy the beans directly from them. There's farmers markets. There's all of that you can leverage to get the beans, but outstanding. Some of the best coffee I've ever had in my life. So I had to go out with a bang, a little beautiful iced coffee, just a little simple syrup, no additional flavor, so I can really kind of highlight that specific woody flavors. Again, if you're going to pay out the ass for a nice quality coffee, it kind of, and it has beautiful notes of, woodiness or floral things or whatever they're going for, maybe hints of chicory or chocolate or nutmeg or toffee or all these different cool notes that you can find in coffee. For me, I usually, if I'm spending a lot, I really want to highlight those coffee flavors and pay attention to that. And so I'll drink some of it black. I'll try some of it iced. I'll try some of it hot. I'll try some of it with some simple syrup to bring out some of the sweetness with it. I'll do those kind of things, but I don't flavor them really because then you kind of drown out all the nice notes. Now, I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, it has to be unflavored or nothing. No, definitely I will do a lavender iced coffee. I'll do a caramel apple type of a latte or whatever. I have dedicated coffees. I think I have a Caribou coffee I use a lot for that because they're a good mixer. I find ground Starbucks is pretty good too, the pre-ground Starbucks thing for bagged coffee. It's not bad. I think they source out of Peru or something like that. So it's pretty good stuff. I could probably have a coffee show if I wanted to. I'm not going to bore you guys anymore with that, but hey, that's why I provide timestamps so you guys can jump around as needed. But let's get into the stories. We have some huge ones, again, I said. So let's just start with the biggest story for me this week. Again, this story is going to be written by Kofi Outlaw over there at comicbook.com, but new Ultimate Spider-Man series from Jonathan Hickman was announced. This is a dream come true. I can barely contain myself. I can barely even believe it, to be honest with you. But let's get into it. Marvel is launching a new Ultimate Spider-Man comic series in 2024 under the creative team of writer Jonathan Hickman, also known, for X-Men's House of X, and Marco Checchetto, who just came off of Daredevil's The Red Fist saga. The announcement post from Marvel Entertainment teases fans with the concept of Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man before letting them know that the actual reveals won't be coming until New York Comic Con next month. So it's going to be a couple weeks before we know any more specifics about this. But this is a quote here. Jonathan Hickman's Ultimate Invasion limited series spawns an entire new Ultimate universe complete with a new Ultimate Spider-Man by Hickman and Marco Checchetto. Get more details next month at #Marvel New York Comic Con. So yeah, I am so excited about this. Again, Hickman, one of my favorite authors. Marco Checchetto, some of the best art out in the game right now. I love his Daredevil stuff. Him and Zdarsky was a beautiful team. And then you kind of put them together on a title that is, you could probably see it here too. Here, let me turn the bat on too. We have Ultimate Spider-Man right there. And I have all of these things. So it's one of my favorite series of all time. And I'm so excited to be able to see it kind of come back in a reborn form too. So it's not basically picking up where the last universe left off. If you know, things went crazy with Secret Wars, but from what I understand, there was kind of a restoration after the fact, and I've always gotten kind of confused about that because they allude in Spider-Man 2, the collab between Miles and Peter Parker, 616, the Ultimate Universe, that the Ultimate Universe still exists in some capacity, because you saw a version of the Ultimates with, if you've read Miles, the first omnibus, during Bendis's Ultimate line, that Peter Parker actually comes back and somehow come back, Palpatine style, I don't know, but he was like reborn, I guess, and so he's around, I think, to some capacity, but this seems to be a whole different thing, and until we read Ultimate Invasion number 4, I don't exactly know how this works, because if you've been reading Ultimate Invasion, spoilers there, the maker prevented Peter Parker from ever getting spider powers. So the question is this: who is Hickman's Ultimate Spider-Man? Is it going to be a new version of Peter Parker for this new Ultimate Universe? Is this a Miles reference? Because, Miles was playing a role earlier on, and he hasn't really been referenced since then. So is this going to be a Miles thing? Or is this a new character in its entirety? I don't know about that. I know Hickman walks into things and wants to do something completely new, but I don't know if he's looking to create a new Spider-Man per se. But I'd be down for all three, to be honest with you. The only thing is with the Miles is, would that be a new Ultimate Universe Miles, or would Miles be grabbed from the 616 and put back into the Ultimate Universe? That one seems a little less likely, because as you know, Cody Ziegler is doing his thing in the 616. And they did all that stuff with Secret Wars to even get him into the 616 in the first place, to just send him back to the Ultimate Universe. I don't see Marvel editorial necessarily pushing for that. But yeah, I'm so excited to see what he does for it. And, the good thing about Hickman is that he's going to set a new status quo no matter what. So if you're concerned about them kind of going back into the Ultimate Universe and playing it safe, Hickman's not going to do that. He hasn't done it previously. I know with Gods, he's about to go crazy. Ultimate Invasion has been pretty insane. You got his Fantastic Four stuff, New Avengers, X-Men. You got all his Substack creator-owned stuff. So he's done this a million times, where he loves kind of creating a new world and filling it in with all the lore and stuff like that. And I expect him to do the same here with Spider-Man. There's not a character that I ever thought he was going to do, and it sounds like he felt this exact same way. He released a statement previously when he was kind of teasing this about him basically writing a character that he never expected to ever write before. And I never would have launched or connected Hickman to Spider-Man before. I know he's dabbled in that world. It was, I think, Amazing Fantasy 1000, something like that. I think it was Amazing Fantasy, or it was one of those anniversary issues where he had like a couple pages of this. It almost seemed like a Council of Reeds, but it was like a Council of Multiversal Spider-Man. So it was it wasn't quite a Spider-Verse thing, but I loved what he was doing there, and I wonder if this is going to be in that world, or if that. Yeah, there's lots of different directions he could go with it, but I'm so excited about that. So let me know, comment section down below, are you into this? If you're a Spider-Man fan, how do you feel about Hickman at all writing Spider-Man? Are you into the Ultimate idea? Are you let down? I would love to know your thoughts. But we have one more story that has come out of Marvel. It's another actually New York Comic Con teaser, but the fall of the House of X and the rise of the Powers of 10. So in a New York Comic Con teaser, Marvel has announced the fall of the House of X and Rise of the Powers of X by writers Jerry Duggan, unsurprising there, and Kieran Gillen, Immortal X-Men, and then artists Lucas Wernick and R.B. Silva. So a couple thoughts there, but we'll read everything first. And again, this is Brian Cronin over there at CBR.com. Marvel has also announced the resurrection of Magneto, a new comic book project, so it seems like it's going to probably be a new mini-series akin to, like the Trial of Magneto thing with Scarlet Witch. A new comic project from X-Men Red Rider Al Ewing and then artist Luciano Vecchio, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Magneto returns for X-Men's Darkest Hour, and the resurrection of Magneto reads the announcement. Okay, so let's take the first half. We basically have what I guess is going to be the next major phase for the Krakoa era of mutants, and it's obviously referencing House and Powers of 10. That's what launched everything. So I guess the implication is that this is what's going to close out everything. Now, I had this debate a number of times with my friend Zach. We've talked about it, where how is the Krakoa era going to end? Is there going to be things that continue? Is it going to be a hard reset? And I've always been of the mind that I felt like there are going to be threads and references that continue past this era. So I think to some degree, Krakoa as a nation might stick around, again, akin to something we've seen like Wakanda, Latveria, kind of these ever-present places. But the Krakoa era, of course, is going to come to an end. I mean, nothing goes on forever. This launched in 2019. It's been, 4 years now? With this, it would be 5 years. I think that's a good run, to be honest with you. For any one era of comics, like, things are always going to be reset. And obviously, you want to be accessible to new readers. And if you just keep going and going and going with the Krakoa thing, it's going to be incomprehensible at past a certain point. So, I'm excited to see that they're building towards another big bang to kind of wrap things up, if anything. I just hope some things continue going forward. The teams are unsurprising. I'm excited to see RB Silva. Obviously, they were involved with the House and Power 10 initially, so kind of bringing them back for this is awesome. Lucas Wernick, kind of an X-Men staple at this point, doing a bunch of covers and internals and stuff like that. So not mad at that. And then Jerry Duggan and Kieran Gillen taking the reins of this. If I had my way, I would have actually... I wouldn't necessarily swapped the Magneto thing, but I would have gone Al Ewing, Kieran Gillen for this specific event. And then Jerry Duggan can keep doing his thing. He's done a great job with Fall of X so far, so I don't want to exclude him from it. But Al Ewing doing the Magneto thing, that makes sense because Magneto died in X-Men Red, so naturally you want the person who made that choice to be the one in charge of resurrecting them. So I'm not mad at that. We knew Magneto was going to come back in some capacity. I guess the question is how, because obviously I think him and Storm have straight up erased the ability to be properly resurrected, because I think they destroyed their files or whatever, their backups, basically their mental backups. So once he was dead, he was dead. But with everything that's happening on Arakko right now with Genesis and things getting pretty dire, and now you have Apocalypse kind of making some weird appearance in Immortal X-Men, there is a good case that they need some heavy hitters to kind of get things back on track. With Charles Xavier being in the shape he is, where he's essentially just kind of given up and he's resigned to just protecting the literal island of Krakoa from the Orcus invaders, specifically with Selene and Sebastian Shaw. It does leave them for a gap of leadership. Obviously, you have Kate Pryde still doing her little ninja thing, going crazy. Sync is still around. Talon's still around. They're kind of leading. They're a little bit of a rebellion there. Emma Frost is kind of in the Iron Man world right now. So yeah, there is a huge void in leadership for the mission, for the mutants to try to kind of regather things. So I think it makes a lot of sense for them to want to bring Magneto back, even if it's against his wishes. He's been out of the fold for a while. If you don't remember it, we're talking all the way back to the attack on Arakko during the Axe Judgment Day event, where, what was his name? Uranos, I believe his name was, which is Thanos' grandfather, who basically wiped out Arakko, and Magneto died in the process there of defending Arakko. So he's been out of the field for quite a while now, so it makes sense to eventually bring him back. But yeah, there's lots of questions as how they're going to do that. There's lots of ways they can do it. They could explain it away pretty simply that that wasn't the only backup. They could restore him to a previous one, kind of like what some people thought was going to happen with Beast, where it's like a way to restore his character. It's possible they could restore Magneto back to a previous version of him, so not necessarily the one that was leading the Quiet Council and doing the X-Men Red and stuff like that. That's a possibility. There could just be another backup, and they just go against his wishes and bring him back anyways. They can explore the magic route, Madeline Pryor. There's lots of different ways that they can do this. So, I'm excited to see how it goes. I don't think that this is going to be the end of the Krakoa era in general, but I do think they're trying to wind things down, and I feel like this, if anything, is going to tie up all the loose ends set up by Hickman. Some of them that they're interested in doing. So, with all that, you have what's going to happen with the Nation, Resurrection Protocols, the war against Orcus. You have all of the Dominion stuff that they might need to address at some point. You have the Moira issue and the multiple lives of her. You have the war against humans, and then the place that machines play in relation to that, and ascendancy, and all those different threads that he kind of set up. I would imagine this is probably going to tie up a lot of those, probably not all of them, because again, I think the moment Hickman stepped off, we had to have let go of the one like the guarantee that all of these threads would be addressed to some capacity. I knew that some of them would fall by, but I don't think they're gonna leave us hanging on like a ton of things. So yeah, super stoked about that. But let's get into the pull list. Very small pull list this week. We only have 4 books, but I read a ton digitally, so don't worry. I have thoughts about lots of things. So let's get moving. One of my favorites of this week for sure, Wonder Woman #1 by Tom King. I have this gorgeous art germ cover, and with this one and my Big Barda Birds of Prey finally came in, I am current with all my art germ covers, so I'm so happy about that. Balance has been restored, and this cover is one of my favorites by art germ in a while now. It's just absolutely beautiful. Diana looks incredible on it, and this book is also incredible. You know, it really matches the externals of it. Tom King did his thing. I like Tom King quite a bit. I know some people are not really into him. It seems like it's a very like love or hate thing for people who read a lot of Tom King. But overall, I think he killed it. He set up a very interesting premise with basically the Amazons being on the out with the government because there's been effectively an attack where 19 people died and only men were targeted. And so you have the gender war implications of that, where people are not trusting this matriarchal society and they want them out of the country. Then that naturally leaves Diana on a spot. You have the Sovereign, this new group that seemingly holds immense power in the United States, and they're going to be going against Diana and stuff like that. So amazing plot threads that he set up in this specific book. Banger of a first issue. What was surprising to me is that you get no Trinity references so far. So it seems like he's leaving some stuff for the rest of the run. It's just interesting to me that the entire first issue doesn't have Trinity, considering that she was one of the first things we actually saw about this. They used her for all the promo materials, so it doesn't seem like she's going to be intrinsic to every plot thread laid out in this run. Right now, they're very focused on Diana and everything that's happening, and then I guess we'll see how she kind of comes in from there. But as you know, all the Trinity adult stuff is time displacement, and you know that Tom King likes playing with time things, so those are going to be future references. If anything, this run may lead us to, and I'm sure we'll see some of Trinity in the future working with John Kent and Damian and what that all looks like, and that's all good, and that's what we saw in Wonder Woman 800. But I feel like if anything, this run is going to be leading to the events of wherever Trinity's from, whether that means Wonder Woman getting pregnant by somebody, if that means her being shaped out of clay, however Trinity comes, and whether she has a father or not, I don't know. But I would imagine that's a bulk of what this run's going to be, is building up to where she comes from. Less so Trinity being an intrinsic part of what is happening with Diana, if that makes sense. So we're just speculating at this point, but overall, a great first issue. And I'm just glad that he's coming out and he's shooting his shot, you know, at the very least. Because, and again, I say this with pure love because I love Wonder Woman and I love a lot of the writers who have worked on her in the past couple of years, but it's felt very safe for quite a while now. The last time that I felt like a run kind of came out of the gate swinging, like with some real shots there, maybe Rucka's second run, you know, the Rebirth coming out of New 52. Certainly Azzarello did his thing, and there was like moments, you know, Mariko Tamaki did some things, G. Wilson did some things. Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad was relatively safe throughout that. They did some interesting Dr. Psycho stuff, and there was some interesting stuff related to Hippolyta and her ascending to godhood and all that. That's interesting, I guess. But yeah, this is the first time in a while where issue 1, banger, just throwing it out there, like it or hate it. I can appreciate that. So yeah, Wonder Woman #1, very strong issue. Let's keep it moving. We have ASM number 34, and I have to say, Zeb Wells is doing his thing. A lot of people had slander for him. I think this is a genuinely good run, and he is cooking right now, and I was very happy about this issue. And as I alluded to last week, I read, I think, 6 of the preview pages, and so now seeing them in full context, this was an excellent issue. So you had some of the Kraven stuff still where he's basically fighting to free himself and find out, and push against that urge, that this situation that his father succumbed to. Because, you know, as you may remember from the last issue, Peter, with the Green Goblin's sins, effectively just tosses the gun into the coffins, like basically like off yourself, which is insane. And so this one is a continuation of everything that was set up there, where Peter is taking his rage out on everybody who's wronged him, because his inhibitions are gone. His good spirited nature to maybe forgive and stuff like that is completely gone. So he's hunting. He took a shot at Tombstone. He basically unplugged his ventilator, which is keeping him alive. If you don't remember, when Tombstone's daughter, what's her name? It's not Janice, is it? And Robbie's son, I'm sorry, I forget their names. They're getting married. That got attacked and that's going to be addressing the gang war stuff. We know Tombstone's going to pull through because you see solicits for like everything that's happening there. So, but basically he got shot up. He's in the hospital right now on his last legs, holding on as best as he can. And Peter basically just unplugs his ventilator, which is insane. You got that. You got him hunting Paul. Obviously, we understand where that frustration comes from. Doesn't make it right, but I certainly understand where that frustration is coming from. And we're sure there is a latent frustration and aggression on Peter's part. But naturally, again, he's a good dude. So he's like, I'm going to try to handle this as maturely as possible and kind of just tuck my feelings away and continue focusing on my own thing. But the moment you have Norman's sins in him, it's a wrap. He's going after him. And then you have a very eerie confrontation between him and Norman, where basically he's like, have you seen Paul? And Norman's like, no. And basically he takes out his frustrations on Norman based on the death of Gwen, which this is not the first time. Obviously, we know that Peter, it takes everything in his power to try to forgive Norman, but naturally he killed his girlfriend. Like, he's gonna be pissed about that. So he beats the brakes out of Norman. And then you get some cool Queen Goblin stuff where they botched the thing. They were trying to re-inject the sins back into Green Goblin. That didn't work. And now she's grappling with the fact that she has to save her lover. And so at the end, you get this really cool reveal where Craven is saved by Norman and Queen Goblin confronts Peter. And so you get some crazy stuff where they kind of are in, like, they get a little bit of a swap to restore the balance of everything. And I think, obviously, when it's all said and done, the sins are going to be restored to Norman. I think that's going to be the end of the good guy Norman arc that we've been dealing with for, the Beyond Saga and onwards. Because the last time he was, like, really wilding out was the Sin Eater stuff during Nick Spencer's run, I think. So balance will be restored there. I think that's what this is all building. I think there's, like, a long threaded way to just get the return of the Green Goblin, which I think is kind of an inevitability at this point. But overall, yeah, I love what Zeb Wells is doing. He absolutely killed it. And I have this cool Ramita and Romita Jr. cover here that I'm pretty excited about. The only thing that's pissing me off is every time I see the solicits for ASM and I go into Comics Geeks and I saw the different variants for it, the one that is ultimately available for pre-order to everybody, most of them are exclusives. That's the problem. It's either incentive variants or exclusives. And the ones that they leave us with to actually pre-order, I don't like a lot of the cover A's. And then some of the cover B's and C's are like, they're fine. But they have like really pretty covers that none of them I'm able to get without either paying a lot. Or yeah, you pretty much either have to pay a lot or go to some other retailer and order some exclusive for them. So that's super annoying. But quick coffee break. But yeah, that's the only thing that's kind of frustrating. Next one, Contest of Chaos, X-Men. An event that I have expressed discontentment with, but appreciation at the fact what they're doing something with the annuals. This one, not bad at all. You get the cover gives you 90% of what this book is even. It's just Cyclops versus Captain Marvel. They fight. You know what I mean? I think we get some more information about what Agatha Harkness is even doing with this kind of restored Darkhold thing, and she's trying to contain that power and recruit all these people together. And all in all, Captain Marvel just lets Cyclops win. It's cool. It's fine. I'm not mad at it. It's not relevant to anything that's happening with X-Men right now because, as you know, with this Contest of Chaos stuff, everybody's kind of being pulled out of their respective situations and bashed together. But yeah, it's cool. Like, I don't really have a lot of thoughts about this event, really. It's relatively straightforward. I didn't think this was bad, but I don't feel like there's much direction to go with this. But yeah, it's cool. It's fine. I think we have one more, which is going to be Contest of Chaos Avengers Annual. And then I think that'll be the end of it. And it's not like I'm desperate for it to end because, again, these are annuals. These are not impacting the main runs at all. And I can appreciate if they're going to do like a mini event like this or a crossover or whatever you want to call it, that they are removed and not disrupted to the event. That's what, or to the main run. So Next one, or the last one actually, Strange Academy, Moon Knight. This is the second of these Strange Academy collab tie-ins that I think are inevitably going to lead to the next major volume. It would be volume 2 if you don't count Strange Academy Finals, which I think was really just a rebranded continuation of what Scotty Young and Humberto Ramos was doing. So this one is leading to a new volume, I think, with this new team. And so I liked the Moon Knight stuff. You get, it's surprisingly heavy in the Moon Knight stuff, and you have a continuation of this mathematics magic thing that they're doing, and I'm not into the idea at all. I there's something just off about these. I think they're good. The art is cool. I think it's well written. It's fun. Like, it's not that it's not fun anymore. The primary antagonist is fine. There's something about it that is just not resonating with me in the way that the original was. And I know it's not Scotty Young, so I shouldn't be like, okay, and I love these characters, so I'm glad to be able to see them come back in any capacity. And you have Miles also in this one, just like he was in the first one. But at the same time, there's just something about the dialogue in it and the subject matter that is just, I find myself getting bored in these issues in a way that I never got bored in the first Strange Academy. So I'm still letting it cook. I'm totally gonna continue reading into this next volume, which again hasn't been formally solicited or anything like that, but we know is coming. I don't know, there's just something off about it for me. But the good thing is Humberto Ramos is doing these cool connecting variants, which is the one that I got. So I'm excited that we still have that level of continuity there, at least visually, on the covers. And those are the books that I got physically. Let's get into the rest of what I read digitally, because I've read a whole bunch. So let's start with DC. We have Batman Superman World's Finest number 19. There's a continuation of everything that was happening, specifically with, and I forget his name, it's one of Superman's villains, but also the Riddler, who was controlled by him. And it was cool. Like, I'm not mad at it at all. Again, this continues to be a very good run. Mark Waid is doing his thing. I love that it's a kind of a early look into what those team-ups look like between them. You get that kind of skepticism, but at the same time, they're starting to build rapport with one another, and Batman, working with Superman, and obviously this is going to be the first of many encounters that they have going forward. But it was cool kind of seeing Superman come into Batman's world without really knowing Batman, not knowing his rogues gallery, not knowing what's going on necessarily, and kind of getting a look into Batman's world there. So yeah, Batman Superman World's Finest number 19, very solid. Superman number 6, I love that Superman's finally back now, and this is a really, really good issue. I'm very excited about it. The only thing I was a little disappointed, no Jamal Campbell art, but the artist that was doing the work on this was really solid in their own right. But yeah, no, overall it was pretty cool. We have this situation where, if you don't remember where it left off, Lex Luthor was attacked while Superman was busy, or distracted, frankly. And there was an attempt on his life, and he was like stabbed up really bad. But I think he's gonna pull through. He's still alive. They didn't like straight up kill him, but Clark is pretty beat up about that fact, and he goes to Superman Corp or whatever, Superman Inc., whatever they're calling it, and finds out that Lex Luthor, he's trying to figure out that there's this project that has been referenced to him, and he's trying to figure out what it is, and he finds out that there is this superpowered being or someone that Lex has been holding back all this time, and Superman frees him, and pretty quickly you realize that this is a mistake, and Superman gets murked pretty quickly. And so that was a pretty ominous ending, and I'm excited to see what that leads to. We have Titans number 3. This was, again, another really good book. Let me look this up, because I wanted to remember exactly what happened in this book, to be honest. I know there was one thing that I didn't love the art. I was a little thrown off by the... Oh, okay, yes. So this is the Cult of Blood stuff. The Church of Blood stuff. And they basically find out that, the leader, Brother Blood, I believe, who it is, has lost control of this church. And so they stop a human sacrifice, but find out that he's basically lost full control over the church. And you get a continuation of the fact that Tempest is fully on board with supporting the leader there, despite all that's happened. So they're obviously dealing with the fact that Tempest is fundamentally on a different side of them. So that's challenging in their right. It's cool. Not blown away by it, but it's fine. Catwoman number 57, a continuation of this Batman versus Catwoman situation that's going on. And I think it's really good. You get some really good Red Hood Batman stuff here. Kind of just Batman trying to stop them, but being very compassionate at the same time, which I appreciate. That he's always had this level of understanding about when it came to Jason, the fact that he's just like different than the rest of them. And you get this, we all know that Jason has this latent frustration with Batman and everything there, but he's used to distract Batman. You also get some cool Vandal Savage stuff towards the end there, where you find out that that person that Selina has been working with all this time is actually Vandal Savage's daughter. You know that Vandal Savage has completely taken control of Wayne Manor, which is really messing up Bruce. And then at the same time, they have an exchange between Selina and Vandal where she's trying to feel out what he's even doing. It's a cool issue. I liked it. Batman White Knight Presents Generation Joker number 5. It's okay. This event, as it kind of continues, one thing, I think it's gone on longer than it needed to. Second off, I'm less interested in what they have to do at this point. There's a cool reveal at the end, I guess, that like Two-Face is still around and basically has been locked up, I guess, by Jack Napier. I don't know 100% with that. It's cool. And then finally, Batman reappears to some degree, and he gets to have a really sweet moment between him and Harley. So that's fine. Continuing, Hawkgirl number 3. I really liked this, and you get a collab between her and Batman as well. And you get to see her party and have fun, and she has a little dinner party with someone that's sweet. And I just like this series. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's good action in it, and it's good because it's not super deep, so I'm not getting lost in it. That otherwise I feel like I would have. But I think they asked some interesting questions about the nth metal situation and where that comes from, and the fact that it's like interdimensional, and you have the primary antagonist going after it still. So it's cool. I'm not mad at it. Keep it moving. I'm going fast here, guys. I'm going fast. But we have a lot to cover. Green Lantern War Journal number 1. I thought this was fine. I think my main frustration is less with this book and the fact that I feel like they're drip feeding us these little things that I would hope would inevitably lead to a full ongoing John Stewart Green Lantern run, but we're not getting it. They keep doing these little one-shots, these little complimentary things at the end of whatever is going on with Hal. But this was cool. It was a really sweet moment kind of seeing him. Again, he's living in the civilian world right now, and he has these powers that are basically embedded in him. He has the Green Lantern powers without a ring. You have a Green Lantern go after him because he's, I guess, in violation of the law of Oa or whatever. Because, again, he's not sanctioned to work with the Green Lantern powers, but they're seeing at least that he has a ring. He is caring for his mother, which seems to have some kind of form of dementia, and she's waiting for I believe his little sister, and he's able to use a construct to kind of let her have that exchange, and that was like sad but sweet at the same time, and it was a cool exchange between him and that other Green Lantern, and he murks them really quickly. They're building to some kind of antagonist. I'm hoping that this leads to something bigger, though. I'm tired of these little one-shots. Let's move into the Marvel world. Wolverine number 37. Loved this issue. So good. And simple premise, Wolverine going to different places, hunting the various clones of him that are still floating around. We finally get a hard, good look at Wolverine past everything that happened at the Hellfire Gala. And he's basically able to hunt down all the different clones that are floating around. You see him go to Madripoor and all that. And yeah, it's really, really good. Great action. Same team that's still working on it, so it's visually the same, but he's kind of still working with Jeff Bannister to get that intel to find out where all the clones are. And I think you see him kill 3 of them. But one of them was kind of sad that they don't want to be a monster. So it's interesting seeing them kind of developing different mental, because from what I understand, with the clone situation is that when Beast cloned them, they were kind of like mindless, but at the same time, they have the healing abilities, so their mind would slowly be restored. And so you could see some of them kind of coming a little bit closer to proper Wolverine, where they don't want to just be these mindless monsters and killing everything anymore. They don't want to do it anymore. So that was kind of sad to see him have to reluctantly slaughter all of them, but pretty good stuff. Let's move into a big one before that coffee break. Y'all know how it is. All right. Uncanny Spider-Man number 1. I made a TikTok yesterday, posted it this morning, time of recording, so it'll probably be a day or two after this comes out, or before this comes out. But Uncanny Spider-Man is out, and we finally get some insight into why the hell Nightcrawler is even taking up the mantle of Spider-Man. This is Cy Spurrier written. A little bit of background. This is fresh off of everything that happened with Sins of Sinister. He's left Krakoa, and he's working in conjunction with Peter in seemingly New York, and he's taken up the mantle of Spider-Man. They haven't concretely answered why Spider-Man. I don't know. Maybe because mutants are being hunted and he wants to help people, so he's going to be masked, and he took up Spider-Man for some reason. I don't fully know exactly. Maybe they'll get into that. Maybe they won't. Maybe it's one of those things you just roll with the punches and just enjoy the series for what it is. But it's pretty cool. One thing I love is the fact that they've incorporated some of the enemies of Spider-Man into the Orchis plotline. So they really are trying to make a concerted effort to fuse the Spider-Man thing and the X-Men thing, which is pretty cool. So you have Vulture essentially acting as a commanding official in Orchis. Orchis is expansive at this point. They have so many different branches, so that's not hard to believe. But it's cool seeing that in these individual Fall of X runs, like Astonishing Iceman and stuff like that, they all have their own respective branches of Orchis targeting them. And they were able to identify that Nightcrawler is still around and doing his thing, and they know he wasn't at the Hellfire Gala. And his power set is pretty obvious. Like, if you see somebody popping around, bamfing, if you will, you're left with pretty much one of two people. It's Azazel and Nightcrawler. So they know it's Nightcrawler. And it continues all that Cy Spurrier set up previously with all Legion X and Way of X, so he still has that cool sword. There's a really awesome reveal at the end there that Mystique is still alive, which we could have assumed, but we know that Destiny thinks that she's dead, so there's going to be implications there, but she's kind of out of it and looking for her baby, and Nightcrawler finds her at the end there, and she's kind of been attacking people in a park seemingly as like a disguised crazy person. Tweaking out. I don't know what that's all about and what happened to her. I would imagine we'll get information about that. Overall, great first issue though. It's just a little bit inaccessible, and I mentioned this on TikTok too. It is like technically a new Spider-Man #1, but it's very much an X-Men title. So if you're not up to date on X-Men and everything that's happened with Orchis and Hellfire Gala, and specifically you're not up on Cy Spurrier's contributions to that world, so we're talking Way of X, Legion of X, and Nightcrawlers in the Sins of Sinister event, yeah, you're going to be a little bit lost with this one. But overall, good stuff. We have Uncanny Avengers #2. And what I like about this issue and makes it pretty interesting is seeing Rogue challenge Captain America's authority. The mission didn't go great, but overall, I think this is a pretty good book. It's Jerry Duggan written. You have them going against Captain Krakoa and his whole team of mutants and stuff like that. We still don't know who Captain Krakoa is. There's lots of guesses out there. I think I forget what Baron Zemo is a decent idea of who it could be, but overall, I'm not mad at this book at all. I think it's a pretty solid contribution. I am thrown off by the idea of a Uncanny Avengers with Scarlet Witch at the same time as Jed MacKay's Avengers. It's like two Avengers books, but they are in very different worlds. The fact that this is very much focused on the mutant struggle portion of it. It's an X-Men title first. The only difference is that it's not, even though it's framed the way that it's an Avengers team that has brought in mutants to kind of help the relations issue there, it is actually very much an X-Men team that has incorporated certain Avengers people. So you'll have like your Black Widows in there, and Quicksilver stays in the X-Men world, but like Captain America and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty solid book. Probably my favorite X title this week, Dark X-Men #2. It's so good. I love what they're doing there. I think it's Steve Fox who's writing it. They're killing it. And I love the horror elements that are brought into it. And as I kind of guessed last month when this issue 1 came out, Madeline Pryor used her magic to bring Havoc back, and he's essentially walking around all zombified and stuff like that. But it's handled very lightly. Like, he's got this insane gash in his neck, and he's just kind of walking around being like, hey, what's up, guys, and helping the new girl out. It's funny, but it's actually not handled comedically. It's handled like black humor, if anything. Like it's dark. It's a little bit humorous because of just the situation that they're in. But overall, and then you have, I think it's a future projection. I don't think this is in current time, but you have this version of Madeline Pryor that's kind of devolved into this monster version of her that Orchis has in control of her. And again, I think this is a future situation that they're showing, and that's pretty scary stuff as well. So yeah, Dark X-Men is sick. I love what's happening. You got Archangel is doing his thing there and being violent as all hell. And so, yeah, Dark X-Men, don't sleep on this book. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. I hope it's doing well and people are picking it up. Let's move out of the X-Men stuff, staying in Marvel for a second. Well, actually, no, we have one more X title. Let's do that first. Predator versus Wolverine, #1. And I read that not too long ago. Really fun stuff. It's not much to talk about. It's pretty straightforward. So it's what you'd imagine. It's Predator fighting Wolverine pretty much the entire time. It's a longer book. It's in 45, 46 pages or something like that. What I do like about it is that it seems like it's going to play around with eras. So it starts out with what looks like modern day or close to modern day, and Wolverine's all jacked up being hunted by the Predator. Then it goes back to 1900 with him in the Alaskan wilderness, because we know that he was in Canada and Alaska, in that area, the northern area. This is pre-adamantium and everything like that. He's a much younger man at that point, but he's less trained. He doesn't have the adamantium. He's trying to keep a low profile. So it is a very different Logan at that time. And you have this cool situation where he is recruited to help this guy out to find his kid, quote unquote, and then he's double crossed last second, and that's where he crosses paths with the Predator, and they fight, and the Predator gets mauled by a bear, and that was kind of funny. And then it kind of fast forwards to the Team X days with like Maverick and Sabretooth in them, and yeah, it seems like they're going to be playing around with the different eras of Wolverine and how he's kind of dealt with the Predator seemingly over multiple years. So overall, pretty fun. Ben Percy written. So if you like what he's been doing with Wolverine, I don't think this is a far departure from that. If you like the 20th Century Fox Predator stuff, it's in line with that as well. It's the only difference is the 20th Century Fox line of Marvel stuff is way more like futuristic type of Predator stories, and this one is very much in the past. But other than that, it's a fine book. Let's get into a very interesting one. We have Captain America #1. This is the new J. Michael Straczynski written book that I wasn't super excited for, but not because I like JMS. He's written a lot of classic stuff. He's written one of the best Spider-Man runs I've ever read in my life. So obviously I have an immense respect for his contributions to stuff, but I thought that was an interesting direction to go with a new Captain America #1 in 2023. And Captain America is not really my favorite hero, but overall I thought this was a fine issue. What I like about it is that it very much focuses on the specific period of time after Steve's parents die in the 30s and before he gets his powers in World War II. So there's a short period of time, I think we're talking from 14 to 18, so it's about a 4-year period where he's just doing whatever he can to make it by. And I like the prequel thing, and it leaves in a very interesting place that and I won't dwell on this too long because again it's not necessarily that type of show, but I really appreciate that they're being real about it, which the fact that we're talking about the 30s in America here, and at the time that not a lot of people talk about, where he effectively sees a Nazi rally in a park in his neighborhood, that happened at that time, and it's not something people talk about. But before World War II and everything like that happened, there was a party in the United States that was there were supporters of the Nazi German party in America prior to World War II, and they're tackling that in this book, and I think that's really, really interesting to see. Not to mention, and again, if you're gonna do a book that takes place following Captain America in the 30s in America, you got to be real about it. And it seems like they're not shying away from some of the more unsavory things that were happening at that time period. But overall, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid book. I'm not mad at it. I don't know if this is going to be an ongoing. I don't know if there's going to be a mini or a maxi series, or what are they doing with this. Again, J. Michael Straczynski is a surprising person to go to after what they kind of just built to with the whole Cold War storyline and everything that's happening with Avengers and Uncanny Avengers and stuff like that. This title's an interesting one. It's kind of like a throwback piece to it, but I'm not mad at it. I'm probably going to keep reading it, but has it made me fall in love with Captain America? Definitely not, but I'm not mad at it. Next one, Something is Killing the Children, #33. It was pretty good. The only issue I have with this series is that it has I think, monthly release schedule. but the pacing of it has slowed pretty considerably. It's been a couple issues now where I feel like very little has happened. And you get some small dialogue with that little sister, and the fact that she doesn't know that she's constructing that one monster that they're trying to draw out. And you have a monster that's taking the form of Erica Slaughter, and she's walking around the streets and stuff like that. It's cool. I just needed to pick up the pace a little bit. That's the only problem. Next one, Noctera number 16. I didn't even know this is the last issue of Noctera, at least for now. There might be another volume, another series of Noctera, but for now, yeah, this was the last one. I didn't know that. And it's to give you guys the high-level overview, it is the major confrontation between Nox and bringing the light back to everything, and things wrap up pretty straightforwardly for the most part. Most of the characters survive. The main character, she has that carbon coating off of her now. Her little brother kind of saves the day and everything like that. It's cool. I'm not mad at it. The only thing was another one where some of the pacing sometimes was like, let's go. It just didn't feel like anything was happening towards that latter half. Like it was Mach speed at first, and then things kind of slowed down dramatically. But overall, I think a very great series. I like that it can be contained in 3 trades or something like that. I would, if they ever release like a hardcover compilation, which I'm sure is going to happen eventually, I'd love to pick that up, like a compendium or something like that. Because yeah, overall, I think this is a really, really fun series, and I think in full context, reading the whole thing front to back, I think it'd be an amazing read. It's just kind of waiting month to month, and with the breaks and the specials and stuff like that, sometimes it dragged a little bit. But Scott Snyder did his thing. Lastly, we have Grimm number 13. I loved this book a lot. I don't fully know what's happening on a macro level, but I do understand what's happening on an issue-to-issue basis, and we get a very interesting... It's not particularly a love story or a romance angle per se, but they're definitely analyzing this relationship between these two, and one is dying and the other's not, and he's just grappling with the grief of that and the sense of abandonment and the frustrations there and the choices he made to be a writer, and the relationship between your passions and your relationships and what you prioritize over a given time. Yeah, it's compelling stuff, and I really like what they did with that. And again, I don't fully understand what Grimm is doing anymore on a macro level, like what the main plot is. I know for a while it was a simple premise: where is Death? Then they kind of answered it, and then Death's powers started moving around. And then from that point onwards, I'm like, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest. But overall, yeah. Who writes it? Is it Stephanie Phillips or Stephanie Williams? That's the only problem, is I forget who the writer is sometimes. Let's look it up. Let's take a quick second. We have Grimm by Boom Studios, and it is Stephanie Phillips. Okay, Stephanie Phillips is doing her thing with Grimm. So yeah, overall, like that book a lot. So let's get into the pick of the week. I think this is easy. I know exactly what it's going to be right here. Not Wolverine. Wonder Woman number 1. Absolutely. It's such a good book and such a good jumping on point. So again, if you are curious about Wonder Woman but haven't kept up with her for a while, jump into this one. As of right now, it seems that Tom King is doing his own thing. Obviously, with these ongoings, it's not like anything's getting hard retconned or reset or anything like that, but he's just focusing in a different area. So I haven't heard any major references over than just general roles and stuff like that from previous runs. So for example, quick thing, you see Nubia making decisions on behalf of the Themyscirans. She's queen now. You may not know that if you haven't read Trial of the Amazons and Nubia, Queen of the Amazons, and Nubia and the Amazons and all that stuff in Wonder Girl. You might not know that. Now you do. There you go. That's all you really need to know. Other than that, this is a great jumping on point. So if you're curious about Wonder Woman, if you're looking for something good out of DC right now that I think is going to be a really strong run, check this out. So that's pick of the week. Let's take a quick coffee break. Again, I'm taking a lot more coffee breaks today because I'm very thirsty. A lot of talking today. 2 stories, decent pull list, big digital list. So lot to go through. How are all y'all doing? You doing good? You hanging in there? Good. So let's get into reading recs for next week. I think next week's going to be a really solid one. There's lots of books I'm going to be reading, but I've noticed with my reading recs, I've been like recommending almost everything that I'm going to read. I'm like, actually, let me just focus on the things that I'm like most excited about. So it's still a big list, but it's probably a little bit smaller than some of my previous weeks. All right, reading recommendations for next week. We have Ultimate Invasion number 4. Hickman is continuing to kill it. This is the last of this miniseries, so if you're at all curious about his Ultimate Spider-Man stuff and this restored Ultimate Universe, and there's going to be more Ultimate stuff coming from Hickman, read this miniseries. There is going to be a Treasury edition that's coming out in a couple months. That might be the version you might want to pick up because it's going to have a nice oversized paneling, and that Brian Hitch art will probably look pretty cool in that way. But overall, this is the last issue. I'm very excited to see where it goes. It's made a lot of progress and at the same time not made a lot of progress in 4 issues. In 4 issues, you think every single one's going to be an absolute banger, but the last one was surprisingly uneventful. It was mostly just kind of logistical. What is the power centers of this new restored Ultimate Universe? I'm surprised he dedicated a whole issue to that. I'm excited. He has a lot of things to tie up with this last issue, and I hope he does, but we'll see. Next one, The Avengers number 5, Jed MacKay written. Love what they're doing. If this is another big scale Marvel book, I highly recommend you check out. I think it's going to be leading to a lot of events and certain things that have been announced by Marvel. So you probably want to keep up on this one. And Jed MacKay is one of the best ones working right now over there on the Marvel side. So I think you definitely want to be reading his 3 books that I think he's doing right now, which is Avengers, Strange, and Moon Knight. Read them all. They're all very good. The next one, arguably one of the best series coming out of Marvel right now, you have The Immortal Thor number 2. Al Ewing absolutely murdered the first issue, and so I'm so excited to see what this whole idea of who are the gods to the gods. I think that's such an interesting premise, and I love what Al Ewing is doing, just kind of taking a look at what is godhood, what is power, what is indefinite in time displacement stuff and the roles that we play, and he just explores such interesting themes. So I'm so excited to see what he does. Next one, The Invincible Iron Man number 10 continues to be a series that I like more and more as the issues release. If you've read the last issue and everything that's happening with X-Men, you know that Emma Frost and him, that whole marriage thing, because I guess Fei Long bumped into them. So I would imagine this is going to continue. The good thing is that now we're starting to get Tony back in a more powerful position because of Kingpin restoring the Hellfire Club. So, and he is he the Black King? I think so. Something like that. But now that he's kind of in a powerful role there, and for some reason they're actually committing to the bit and getting married, it's fun stuff. Next one, we have Brian Hill's Blade number 3, another series that I'm absolutely loving. I think going a little bit under the radar, but people should definitely check this out. Amazing art, such good action choreography, and a pretty fun premise. Relatively straightforward Blade series as well. I don't have a ton of experience reading Blade. I've watched, the Blade movies, and I've read lots of things with him in it. This one is finally going to bring his daughter. Is her name Bloodline? I don't know exactly what they're calling, because that was the name of the series. But his daughter, I think, is going to come into the fold with this issue, so I'm excited for it. The next one, let's get into some X-Men stuff real quick. We have Jean Grey number 2. The first issue was amazing. I love that it's kind of like period pieces mixed with everything that's happening right now with her and what you would imagine is going to be her inevitable resurrection, because there are solicits for some covers related to Immortal X-Men, so we know she's coming back in some capacity. So this is really good. Definitely read this, especially if this is a book I think for the most part you could actually jump into if you're not up on Krakoa too. So if you're just a fan of Jean Grey, go check it out. The next one, Miss Marvel, The New Mutant. I love that Iman Vellani still doing her thing. And yeah, this book is really awesome. And I love that it is both an X-Men book and very much still feels like a Miss Marvel book. And I think they did a great job there. And it's cool that it's examining the psychology of the position that she's in and the effect that resurrection has had on her and her family, or at least those who know, and her kind of keeping it from them. And now that she's told her friend. So yeah, very interesting stuff, very fun. Let's move into DC real quick. We have The Flash number 1. Cy Spurrier is jumping on The Flash, and I'm absolutely going to give this a read. I have not been up on Flash in years. Flash Rebirth was the last thing I read by Flash, and I'm talking about maybe the first 1 or 2 trades worth. So we're talking 6 to 12 issues. So it's been a very long time since I read Flash, and I'm going to use this as a jumping on point. I'm hoping and praying I understand everything that's happening. I know Jeremy Adams did an incredible run from what I've heard about, so I'm going to have to go back and read some of that at some point. But I'm going to jump into see how it goes. Every Dawn of DC book so far has been really, really solid, and I expect nothing else from this one. We have Batman Catwoman, the Gotham War Red Hood. This is spawning directly out of what just happened with Catwoman number 57. More Red Hood information. They have the whole him being fake kidnapped or held by Batman to draw Selina out. And so this is just a continuation of that 9-part series that I'm so far pretty much in. I like it more when it focuses on the moral quandary of forced redistribution of wealth and stuff like that, more so than the literal like infighting of the Bat family. I'm like, that's fine, but I like the moral quandary stuff. This is one I'm very excited about. The Penguin number 2. Loved the first issue. Tom King is killing it, and I'm definitely on board with the second one. And I love this. I love the just general central premise of him. It's so Godfather 3, him being forced back into the crime world reluctantly to try to seize power again and bring back the balance to the Gotham underworld. Good stuff. Another series that's going super under the radar is Spirit World number 5. Again, part of that We Are Legends line that I feel like is going super criminally underrated, so definitely go check that out. And then lastly, Power Girl number 1. If you've liked the little tie-in things and the specials they've done, and I like this new power set, then I think this new series is probably going to do it for you. I'm excited to see what they do with it, and they have some really beautiful covers that I don't think I'm going to collect this individually, but I'll probably pick up a trade at some point. But I might have to pick up one of those issues or something like that, because there's some gorgeous variants that are coming out for it. And I like this new direction that they're taking Power Girl, and I hope that they keep the same writing and art teams, because it was such a beautiful tie-in that they did with it. So overall, really good week for next week, and that's this week's show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We made pretty good time. We're under an hour. I swear I thought it was going to be like an hour and a half show with those 2 stories and this huge pull list and stuff like that, but or at least all the digital reads that I did. But we made pretty good time. We kept it moving, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. At the end, I like to do a little bit of self-promo, so I just want to give you guys a heads up. TikTok link down below. I'm doing lots of great work over there, or at least work that I'm very happy with. I've maintained pretty much a daily upload schedule, and I upload sometimes multiple times a day depending on what the day is. So like usually like on Wednesdays, I'll have my normal morning video that I post every day, and then I have a haul from when I come back from the LCS. I also did want to give a quick shout out to Zach's Comics Box. I collabed with him. He was on this channel, and I'm going to be being on his channel. As soon as that goes live, I will be linking and referencing everything on my side as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be doing a collab over there. And then I have an upcoming episode next week with Yoo-Hoo Comics Review Part 2 that I'm very excited for. So we have lots of cool collabs that are coming. Lots of great TikToks that are coming. I have a new Who Is series where I'm doing high-level breakdowns on characters that you may not know too much about, and I have the second episode for that going up relatively soon. It probably will be up by the time that this episode comes out, so keep an eye out for that as well. And so yeah, I think that's everything I kind of have in the works. Lots of collabs coming. Going into October, I have 2 more episodes that I got planned, so again, keep an eye out for that. I'm not dropping who those guests are quite yet until we get a little bit closer and things get locked in. Got more TikToks coming. I'm trying my best to maintain that daily upload schedule. It's just naturally sometimes you just run out of ideas. I run out of books to talk about, and I try not to make TikToks for the sake of just making a TikTok. Like I want to communicate some information or express my love for a work or a writer or creator or whatever. And so I try not to put out BS content just to fill a slot in a day. But so far, I've been able to keep up a daily schedule, and with the amount of things that I have in my drafts, so kind of like scheduled drafts to come out, I have at least another week's worth of content. So things should keep up on that schedule. I hope you guys are enjoying. We're just under 500 followers, which I'm so excited for, and I'm glad that I love the pace that I'm growing at, because it's really a slower grind, but it's a steady grind, and I like that. So new people are following me. They're interacting with the content. I'm building rapport with people. People like the content, I think. People are happy with it. Other creators, I'm meeting lots of different creators and making lots of different friends in the field. And so overall, TikTok has been just a blast to work on and be a part of. And things haven't exploded to the point, because I know sometimes you can get like a viral video or something like that and explode in followers, but they follow you for like one type of video, and sometimes the support is not all the way there. So like you'll have people who have huge amount of followers, but that steady stream of views is not quite there, or it's hard for them to have, I've seen people with 5 times as many followers as me who have a lower view average than me. And again, that's not to pat myself on the back or inflate my own ego, but that's more so like I'm not looking for like a huge follower count. I'm just looking to talk to people about comics. So like engagement's my main thing, and I have engagement right now, so I'm pretty happy with my level of success. And that's not me rationalizing a low follower count, but because it's gonna keep growing, and like I would imagine eventually we'll hit like 1,000 and 1,500 and whatever. But for now, I'm actually pretty happy about the growth, and I love this kind of steady approach where whatever, it's like 5 or 10 followers a day at most. But it allows for me to kind of meet the new people that are following me and kind of build a rapport with them instead of just exploding in followers, and people maybe follow me for one type of video type and they don't maybe like the rest of my content. At least I know, because I'm consistently putting out the same type of content, not the same content, but like a steady, like there's continuity in my page. Like, so it's comic recs and reviews and hauls here and there, but I'm not a big haul channel. I try to stay away from the too much like view bait gotcha content, so that nobody gets a misunderstanding for the type of content that I make. I think that's like a good direction to stay on for right now. So at least I know if anybody follows me right now, they're following me for the type of content that they're going to see pretty consistently, unless they bump into one of my older videos like the bracket stuff that I've tried to kind of stay away from now, because again, I don't want to give people the wrong impression. I think there is a lane for that, and I think that's awesome for the people who kill that lane. I love that for them, and I always hope that they're able to find success in that, because I feel like there's a place for that on TikTok. But that's not the space I really want to be in. I don't think I'm very good at it. I think they're way better at it than me, all the people who do that kind of content. And I don't want to give anybody the idea that like, oh, he's like, I'm gonna get this content from him, and then they see all these like reviews of like I'm talking about some random obscure X-Men character, or I'm going into an overview about Uncanny X-Men #1, and they want to just see me do movie rankings. Like, that's just not what I do. I'm not good at it. I don't care to, and I don't have a lot of views on that. So hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. If you have any content ideas for what you'd like to see on the channel, or what you'd like to see on my TikTok or whatever, be sure to let me know. I'm always down to hear like feedback and different ideas, because believe me, like I have lots of things that I'm working on and lots of ideas, but they're not endless. So if you have any good ideas, be sure to let me know. But yeah, that's the show. I'll see you guys next week, and I have a whole bunch of collabs going, so I'll see you guys there as well. Till next time, this is Jibreel from Jibreel Talks Comics. See you guys.